A courageous act is usually imagined as a superhero saving a damsel in distress or a firefighter rescuing someone from a burning building. Courage, however, presents itself in many forms. A courageous act is defined by its risky or dangerous nature. For an act to be courageous, it must fit the following criteria. First, a courageous act must be done deliberately. The person committing the act must have the full intention of doing it, and it can't be just an accident. For example, if someone went on a hike and unknowingly chose a trail that was fraught with dangerous wildlife, this is not a courageous act. Had he known that the trail was dangerous before he embarked and still chose to take said trail, then the act could be considered courageous. To clarify, falling off a bridge would be an accident. Jumping off a bridge, however, to save a drowning cat would be courageous. Similarly, the person doing the act must be fully aware of the risks and consequences. For example, if a policeman agreed to accompany another officer to a very dangerous neighborhood, while fully aware of the nature of said neighborhood, this act would be considered courageous, because he knows the risks involved. However, if he agreed to go along the mission, but was unaware of where the mission would be or what it would entail, this act would not be courageous. A courageous act must also be done with the intent of a positive outcome. For example, if some teenagers were playing a game where they wanted to see who could jump off the highest ledge without breaking a bone, this is not a courageous act. This is just a mere adrenaline-seeking activity. They are doing it purely out of stupidity and with no positive intent. However, if someone jumped off the ledge to rescue someone else from the bottom, this could be considered courageous because the person is doing it with the intent of helping someone else. Fear is the opposite of courage, so for an act to be courageous, it must be not born of fear. For example, if a boy joins the army because his whole family has done so in the past, and he's afraid of disappointing his father, then joining the army is not a courageous act. He is just doing it merely to evade his father's disappointment, and therefore it's based out of fear. However, if a boy joins the army because he wants to serve his country and risk his life in the process, this is a courageous act. For an act to be courageous, it must not be done with any selfish or ulterior motives. For example, a woman working in a bank who is completely aware of the security measures in place for stealing, while knowing the dangers, still decides to transfer money into her account illegally. This act would not be courageous. However, and in a similar situation, if someone were to steal money and donate all of it to charity, this could be courageous, considering that they're doing it all to benefit people or the less fortunate. Finally, for an act to be courageous, one must be taking a legitimate risk. A tightrope walker is very courageous because they are fully aware that they could fall off the rope at any time, causing serious injury and possibly death, yet they walk across it. However, if a tightrope walker installs a net beneath them, this could no longer be considered courageous because there is no risk involved. A courageous act can be determined by many factors. The criteria states that an act must involve a risk, must be done without selfish intent, must not be based on fear, must be done with the intent of a positive outcome, must be done with full knowledge of the risks involved, and it must be done deliberately. Courage can be found in many forms, and although the level of courage involved in an act is subjective and debatable, I stand behind these terms and the defining factors of a courageous act.